Friday night the porch light flickered like it was nervous, and Sarah's hand found mine across the wicker table while the lasagna cooled between us. "I love you," she said, eyes glassy from the second glass of Chianti, and the words landed warm and certain, the way they had the first time she whispered them in the hospital parking lot after our daughter's fever broke. I squeezed back, felt the callus on her thumb from the new pottery wheel she'd bought on impulse, and I believed the weekend would stretch out golden and endless. We laughed about the neighbor's yappy dog, planned a hike for Sunday, kissed slow under the string lights I'd hung last spring because she said they made her feel like we lived inside a snow globe. I carried the dishes inside, humming, and when I came back she was tracing the rim of her glass, smiling at something I couldn't see. I chalked it up to wine and the rare quiet of an empty nest, our girl away at college, and I went to bed certain the world was holding its breath in the right direction. Saturday we woke tangled, her hair across my chest like spilled ink, and she kissed my collarbone before padding to the shower singing off-key Springsteen. I made coffee strong enough to stand a spoon in, the way she pretends to hate but secretly finishes first. She came downstairs in my old Penn State hoodie, sleeves pushed up, and stole the sports section while I flipped pancakes. "You burn these and I'm filing for culinary divorce," she teased, and I flicked flour at her nose. We spent the afternoon on the couch arguing over whether the Phillies were cursed or just incompetent, her bare feet in my lap, my thumb tracing the arch the way I had since we were 22 and broke. That night we made love with the windows open, cicadas drowning out the headboard, and afterward she pressed her forehead to mine and whispered, "Don't ever leave me, okay?" I laughed, promised the moon, and fell asleep counting the freckles on her shoulder like constellations. Sunday she suggested the hike but bailed last minute. "Headache," she said, rubbing her temples with the same fingers that had dug into my back 12 hours earlier. I kissed her forehead, tasted salt, told her to rest. I took the dog instead. Let the trail burn my calves while I replayed her voice cracking on, "Don't ever leave me." Something itched under my ribs, but I blamed the pollen, the altitude, anything but the sudden distance in her eyes when I got home and found her on the porch swing, phone face down, staring at nothing. She smiled when she saw me, but it arrived late like an afterthought. Dinner was quiet. She pushed salmon around her plate and said she wasn't hungry. I cleaned up alone, heard the shower run longer than usual, caught her silhouette through the fogged glass and wondered why she'd locked the bathroom door for the first time in 23 years. Monday morning she left for work before I woke, a note on the counter. "Gone early, big presentation. Love you." The handwriting looked rushed, the heart she usually dotted with a smiley face just a lopsided circle. I stared at it too long, then stuck it to the fridge like evidence. At the office I couldn't focus. Emails blurred. Around noon I texted, "Knock 'em dead." She replied with a thumbs-up emoji, nothing else. By 3 I was inventing reasons to drive past the community center where she taught evening pottery. The parking lot was empty except her Subaru, but the lights inside were off. I told myself she'd carpooled, went home, paced. She walked in at 7:30 smelling like clay and something sharper, citrus cologne that wasn't mine. "Class ran late," she said, kissing my cheek too quick, eyes sliding past me to the hallway. That night she slept facing the wall, spine a rigid question mark. I lay awake listening to her breathe, counting the seconds between inhale and exhale like a code I used to know. Tuesday she asked for space over oatmeal. Just like that. "I need space," she said, spoon clinking the bowl like a gavel. I laughed. Thought it was a joke, until I saw her knuckles white around the handle. "Space from what?" My voice cracked on the last word. She wouldn't look up. "From us. From this routine. I feel like I'm disappearing." The air left the room. I heard the clock tick, the dog whine at the door, my own pulse in my ears. "Disappearing." I repeated, dumb. "Sarah, talk to me." She finally met my eyes and they were wet but steady. "I can't. Not yet." Then she was grabbing her purse, keys jangling like alarm bells, and the front door shut soft behind her, the way you close a coffin so it doesn't echo. I sat there until the oatmeal hardened into cement. The silence pressed against my eardrums. I don't know how long I stared at the empty chair before I moved. Maybe minutes, maybe an hour. But when I did, I went straight to her laptop on the kitchen counter. It was still warm. Password hadn't changed since 2017. Our wedding date plus the dog's name. I told myself I was checking for viruses, for anything except what I already suspected. The browser history glowed like a crime scene. Hotel sites. A florist in the next town. A string of texts previewed in the corner of the screen. His name was Ethan, the new adjunct at the college, 29, divorced, apparently poetic about her shoulder blades. I clicked one thread and the words punched the air out of me. I miss the way you taste after class. Another. Tell him you're working late again. My stomach folded in on itself. I scrolled back months of afternoons I'd spent proud she was finding herself in that goddamn pottery studio. Months of me watering her succulents while she watered someone else. I printed everything. The printer whirred like it was embarrassed. I sat on the kitchen floor surrounded by warm pages, reading until the letters swam. There were photos too, selfies in his car, her mouth laughing against his neck, the same mouth that had said, "I love you" 4 nights ago. I tasted copper. I'd bitten my tongue clean through. The dog nosed my elbow, whimpered. I don't remember standing, don't remember dialing, but suddenly Mark's voice, my lawyer, my college roommate, was in my ear asking if I was hurt, if I needed him to call the cops. "No," I croaked. "Just come over." He arrived in 20 minutes still wearing his court suit, took one look at the papers avalanche on the tile and poured me 2 fingers of the bourbon we kept for funerals. "She's been careful," he said, scanning. "Joint accounts untouched, no big withdrawals. But this," he tapped the hotel charge, "is community property spent on adultery. We document, we move fast, we protect you." The word protect sounded foreign, like it belonged to someone else's life. Sarah came home at 11 to find us at the table, papers neat between us like a deck of cards. Her face cycled through confusion, recognition, horror. "What is this?" she whispered. Mark slid the top sheet across. Hotel receipt, time-stamped, her signature looping elegant at the bottom. She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the woman I'd loved since she was 21 wearing overalls and paint in her hair. And I saw the stranger who'd locked the bathroom door. And they were the same person, and that was the worst part. "I was going to tell you," she said, voice small. "I swear I was." Mark started talking, assets, timelines, custody of the dog because our daughter was grown, but I barely heard. I was watching Sarah's hands tremble the way they did the first time she tried to throw a bowl on the wheel, and it collapsed. She reached for me once, fingers brushing my sleeve, and I flinched so hard the chair scraped backward. "Don't," I said, and it came out ragged like I'd swallowed glass. She cried then, quiet sobs that shook her shoulders, and part of me, the idiot part still counting freckles, wanted to hold her. The rest of me catalogued every lie. The headache, the citrus cologne, the thumbs-up emoji. Mark packed the papers into a folder thick as a phone book. Sarah stood in the doorway clutching her purse like a life vest. "I never stopped loving you," she said. "I just needed to breathe." I laughed, a sound like tearing paper. "You needed to breathe in someone else's mouth." She flinched. Mark touched my elbow. "Time to go." I walked past her without touching, smelled the clay on her skin one last time, and stepped into the night that suddenly felt too big. The weeks that followed were a slow hemorrhage. I slept in the guest room, woke to the ghost of her shampoo. Our daughter called crying, caught between us like a wishbone. Sarah moved into the apartment above the studio, sent texts that arrived like aftershocks. "I miss your coffee." "I'm sorry." I found her pottery wheel in the garage, the clay inside dried to stone. I hurled it against the wall and watched it shatter into 1,000 apologies that would never be enough. Mark filed. She didn't contest. The judge's gavel fell like a period at the end of a sentence I never wanted to write. Some nights I drive past the community center, windows dark, and I wonder if she still teaches on Tuesdays, if Ethan waits in the parking lot with engine running. I wonder if she tells him about the snow globe lights, about the way I used to warm her feet between mine. I wonder if love can be both a home and a prison, if needing space is just another way of saying I stopped fitting inside the life we built. Mostly I wonder how you mourn someone still breathing, still posting sunsets on Instagram with captions about new beginnings. Here's what I know now, the truth I carry like a stone in my pocket. Love isn't a promise kept. It's a promise believed until the moment it isn't. And when the moment comes, you don't get to choose the wreckage. You only get to decide whether to keep bleeding or start bandaging. I'm still deciding.